all good. Sometimes sometimes this little wired headphone is the best way to go.
It's usually never the way to go, and it's as it rubs around. So, Luca Nation, what's going on? Welcome back to your favorite segment, the Coffee with Cage segment. That's okay. Ian can be in the background, and we're streaming this live on YouTube. This is our second week doing this, and it was so much fun. Last week, just interacting with the crew, interacting with our fans. So we figured, why not do it again? How you doing, big man? How you feeling? Are you optimistic or pessimistic to the hobby?
If I had to pick one of the two for today, this might change tomorrow. I'm going to say pessimistic.
I'm aware. I've been catching that vibe. And before we start, so we have 10, 15 questions here that we're going to go through. Before that, I saw something in the groups that I thought, kind of worthwhile to discuss, okay? So this is from our meme group. So someone says, I honestly think Top Shot stole a ton of momentum from the high population base craze. Lower population cards seem to be doing fine for guys like Zion. Like with 16K PSA 10 of Luka and Zion, I just don't see those exploding ever again. Cage came in and elegantly responded, okay? So he said, when 80% of the people buying came in the last 2 years and have seen nothing but increases, it's going to be bad. The majority of people in this have wet paper hands. I hope you don't mind that I'm reading this out loud. They've never dealt with a prolonged down period. The next few months will be very interesting because a continued downtrend will shake a lot of these fair weather investors and flippers. Now, I bring that up because that's super relevant, and I think that's super candid as well. I wanted to see, I think that's going to add, this conversation alone could be one episode if you really think about it. Because you're not the only one feeling this. You're not the only one seeing this. There's people who've had a lot of success, but there's no sugarcoating it. There's people who have joined our hobby January, February, bought in at highs, and are not very happy right now. So I think it would be a disservice if we didn't start with this topic before we jump into the kind of the nuanced, very specific questions from our audience.
Sure. Wet paper hands is a creation of my own, right? Paper hands are bad enough, but wet paper hands stuff will fall through that even easier, right? So, listen, the hobby has seen a resurgence, and it's funny to call it the hobby, right? And I think because you can't call it the investment, it just doesn't sound the same, right? But a lot of people have gotten into the hobby in the last couple of years and have seen nothing but upswings. And even brief periods of downswings have been, answered by or met with, a reversal, something that went back up. And we've seen a pretty prolonged, downtrend for a lot of cards, depending upon, where you are. I would say where most people are, because over the last 2 years, where most people have made their hay in this hobby is in modern basketball. And modern basketball is the stuff that's been hit the most with the longest downtrend. If you happen to be in modern football, especially in Mahomes or somebody like that, you're not seeing the same sort of a downtrend that the majority of people who are in modern basketball are. And I don't know what the answer is going to be for that. I don't know, what we're going to see. We saw a similar kind of down spike. I don't know if you remember the first big jump up we had for LeBron, after it was rising. I used that LeBron 2003 Topps Chrome as a nice little, bellwether. It's a nice little measuring stick, right? And, it was 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And, it went all the way up to like, $12, $14, $15,000. And then, they stopped playing and it started to come down. And I remember people, offering that card in trade and then, just like a lot of panic because that was the card that everybody was chasing for whatever reason. Maybe their favorite influencer was telling them to buy it. Maybe their favorite influencer was telling them that was the card that he was buying.
Have we not established that you're people's favorite influencer now?
And I'm not shitting on LeBron here, guys, but if you remember that card, it went up and then it was coming back down. If you look at the trend on that card, that was like a $7,500 card again, which is great. If you were in it at 1,000 or you're in it at 2,000 or 2,500, 7,500 is a great place to be. And that's what we always talk about, that chart. If you look at a long enough view and you're in it long enough, going from 2,000 to 7,000 is up. Going 2,000 to 15,000 is definitely up. But if you happen to be somebody who bought in that 15, 14, 13, 12-ish range and you see it go down, maybe you bought it at 10 or 12, watched it go to 15, and then watched it go back down That's you.
Guilty.
You're raising your hand.
Guilty.
You're right in that boat, right? And it's funny because we have been blessed in this hobby the last couple of years to see people who have. I don't want to call it luck. I don't want to call it smart. Basically, everybody's a genius. Everybody's a genius right now. Literally, everyone's a genius. There's not a lot of skill in picking winners in the hobby for about an 18-month period. Now, that's going to change this year. You're not going to be able to do the grade and flip. You're not going to be able to do a lot of the things that people did over the last 2 years to make that money and color up. And right now you saw the same type of trend with LeBron. The numbers are crazy, right? But we're talking about it was 5, went to 15, came down to 7, and then went back up. That was 40, right? That card now continued to go back up to like 40, and now it's in the 20s, right? So if you happen to be somebody who bought it 20, 25, 30 on its way up to 40, and now I've seen it go down, there's a lot of panic in there, So the question is really going to be, what are the people who bought it at 25, 30, 35 doing now? Are they in it? Are they real collectors? Are they part of the hobby? Or are they people who are in it to make a quick buck? Are they people who are in it because somebody told them to get in it? Are they going to be looking to run and cut bait and, try to get whatever money they can out, take a little bit of a loss and leave? And, if that's the way it is, you could see it continue to go down. That's just one card I'm using an example. I mean, everybody knows I'm a Jordan guy, not LeBron, but you can use the Jordan card the same way. If you look at the PSA 9 Michael Jordan rookie, it has come back right now to where it was in December, right? So it had that January, February huge increase, and it has come all the way back down in price to where it was in December. So again, same type of thing. If you want to look at it with a 3-month chart and look at the January, February highs to now, it looks like that card is taking a nosedive. But if you just expand that chart out to a 6-month chart, it's flat from December. It's actually up a little bit from before that. And, the question is going to be, what happens now? Does it continue to go down? Do people panic? Or are we now setting a new baseline for these cards? Where it gets real fun is the high pop stuff, like Zion and that stuff, right? So go ahead.
What did I jump on here and ask you or say to you? Do you remember just a few minutes ago?
Am I optimistic or pessimistic?
Before that, so I said, Cage, stop listening to these day-to-day opinions of people in the hobby. And you responded, what's the hobby if it's not day-to-day opinions?
Yep.
What I meant by that is we are so short-sighted when it comes to investing, eating right, losing weight, saving money, our goals and dreams. We think in these 1, 2, 3 day to 3 week terms. We don't think long-term, with nothing in our lives. Why is that so difficult for people to think long-term and use periods of like this to not, be concerned, to not be anxious, but to go and study and do research, right? So these periods where there's a down cycle, okay, well, maybe you're not buying, maybe you're not selling, maybe you're researching, maybe you're taking a step back to, every time I talk, Siri turns on, by the way.
Well, I'll tell you the answer why I think,
Please.
Right? And, this hobby was an old man's hobby for a long time. And when it was an old man's hobby, it saw tiny, tiny growth. If you were sitting on a Jordan rookie card, it went from 10 to 12, 12 to 15, 15, and it was 20.
In what period of time?
Over a decade. Over a decade prior to the last 3 years. But something happened. The hobby became cool, right? The hobby was an influencer space. The hobby was a crypto space. The hobby was just one of those places, right? So my answer to it, why people aren't patient with this, and it's a little different than like your eating habits or whatnot, but I get it. The generation that's in this now, the vast majority of people who came in this now are the same people who are bouncing from one thing to the next for money. A lot of it is the flip game. A lot of it is the people who have come in and watched videos of jet jackets being bought at garage sales and, flipping, little toys and milk
This
mugs
guy won't let Gary live.
Whatever
This
else
guy won't let him live.
No, but seriously, but that is,
fair,
it's not just
fair.
Gary, right? I mean, it's an entire generation. It's a whole cluster of people. It's the same people who ran Top Shot up and then jumped off the Top Shot cliff and landed on a Z horse and are now riding that Z horse to the next thing. So those people don't have time to research or care about the long term. They're in it for the short term, quick, before the bubble bursts and they fall. They get out of it while there's still a bubble and jump on the next bubble and are probably part of, rising that next bubble up.
But I was just talking to my buddy about this. The people that are claiming that this is a bubble and the same people that claiming that this is going to the moon are only claiming that because they have vested interest and they're emotional. They're not claiming this saying, hey guys, like, I've done this research on previous cycles with collectibles. I've seen this happen in the art and coin world 14 and 25 years ago, and here's what to look out for. It's not a research-based, this is a bubble that's exploding. It's emotional. It's like, hey, I woke up today on the wrong side of the bed, so I think that this is a bubble. There's no research, there's no backing, there's no foundation to why they're saying that.
So the funny thing, though, is you're right. I mean, but the backdrop is, so I could say, oh, the hobby has never seen anything like this, and, the hobby was never a place to see returns like this, but there are so many other places that are seeing returns like this. Everyone's like, well, the market, if you're doing 20% year over year in the market, you're beating the market. That's Warren Buffett, the best investor of all time. Making 20% year over year is killing the market. So how could anybody be like, wow, cards should be 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x every year? It's absurd. But people are doing that now in other areas. So, I mean, I think what somebody would tell you who's vested in the right stuff in the hobby, the right cards, the blue chip type of stuff would be, just like you often talk about, inflation. There are different things that are becoming hedges for inflation, hedges for the U.S. economy and the dollar, right? If that's being devalued, people are putting their money in real estate, people putting their money in gold, people putting their money in crypto, alternate assets. And this just happens to be one of them.
Wine and cars as well.
Yeah, wine, cars.
The reason why Warren Buffett, if you guys look at Warren Buffett's 10-year track, he's not overperforming the S&P. Actually, in the recent years, he's underperforming the S&P. But what Warren Buffett does really well is he has a core competency and he just sticks to it. And over a certain period of time of 40, 50 years, that's when you really see his track record. But since 2008, and this is worthwhile to talk about a little bit, but he hasn't overperformed the S&P and he hasn't even made good decisions. The money that he's received, he's just bought back Berkshire shares. He's not even investing. But anyway, it's a whole different segment. My point to that is he has a core competency. He's learned it. And he lets time do its thing. And I feel like we've become a little bit too emotional day to day with either this is going to the moon or it's going to collapse. And instead of using this time a little bit more valuably.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, if you think it's going to collapse, then use your time to find out where else you should be putting your money. Right. So, that's the other way of thinking about it.
All right.
Yeah, go for it. So we got some folks on now. We got some folks with questions and whatnot.
He's got some folks with questions. We got people in the comments saying how much they love and adore you and how much they've learned from you. It's all good stuff, These are fun because most of the episodes we record are, we record them and then we produce them. But this is live. It has a different tingle to it. I enjoy it.
I did not imagine when I woke up today that I would be on here this afternoon talking about your tingle. But it is what it is.
It's cool.
This is where things
Live's kind of cool. All right, ready?
Go for it.
I'm going to go with this one because this is relevant to you, okay? Reckless Cards asks, at what value do you think a card is worth sending to an auction house like Golden? And what's that process been like for you?
Okay. So it's a great question. And this is what I love about this stuff. I try to stay away from the old internet while Andrew sets these up. I'm reading these questions for the first time, and I want to give you a real, true, live response to this. So if we're being honest, I sent my first auction stuff to Golden as a consignor this month. At the end of the month, I'll have some stuff with Golden. So I will be able to answer this question next month, maybe a month after, and tell you the end-to-end process, how it is. I'll tell you at what value do I think a card is worth sending to an auction house like Golden, if it's a 5-figure card. And that was what they told me when they approached me actually about some of my stuff. They said we're looking to do anything above 5 figures, nothing below. They have obviously things in there that are going to sell for below 5 figures, but to me, if it's a 5-figure item, that's the way to go. What's the process like? It's like any other auction process. I mean, I've listed with PWCC, which is a little more automated, but basically it's to have folks who will walk you through it and, let you know what the dates are. Like everything else, things get pushed, dates get changed. There is a human aspect to it. This question is pretty timely and pretty relevant right now because, if you went back to February, everyone was on the Golden train. it was Golden with an E instead of Golden with an E, right? He was King Midas, the golden goose, because everything was getting record prices, and he was out there on CNBC and you name it. But his auction ending the last couple of months have correlated with kind of like a little bit of a downturn in the type of cards that he's been selling. And I mean, still getting record prices and still getting huge numbers on a lot of cards. But, what happened, we kind of all expected this. And this is, I'll take this question in a different way for now, because it does kind of respond to what we just talked about for 20 minutes. And it's, if you go back to some of our episodes in February after his auctions and after those record prices on like the Jordan cards and that kind of stuff, we did say that this would be a period of consolidation. Now, I don't know if I expected it to come down as much as it did, but we did talk about these are the cycles of the hobby. And it's not just sports cards. When you see a record like this, it all comes down to supply and demand, right? So there's a limited supply, there's a pent-up demand, and because there wasn't much supply, a lot of these cards sold for high prices. But when those high prices hit, they make the news. They're on your news feed. They start to, make their way into the mainstream, and people who have these items say, all right, well, that's a price I'm willing to sell it for. That's something I bought for $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, and I see it selling for $700. I'm going to sell it now. And you see more supply come out of the woodwork. And with more supply, same amount of demand or even less demand, because some of them have been taken off the market now, you see the price start to come down. But the fun part is, we talk about this, right? We're setting a new floor for a lot of these items. And I think that hopefully after a little period of consolidation, we'll move the way up. So I'll let you know, the process. So far, it's been pretty good, but my stuff hasn't even made it to auction yet. I have had other auction houses, and they're pretty good. What I will tell you is this: depending on what item you have, everything is negotiable, and this is almost like this in life, right? So it doesn't matter if it's the biggest auction house in the world. If they are coming to you for an item that you have, and you're looking to auction, and you see that it's a 20% buyer's premium, you can always negotiate that.
Yeah. And use us for that too, by the way. This is why a big part of Luca Nation Network that is just in its infancy, why I'm so passionate about building this community is because I believe we have more leverage, more power together than we do individually. So thank you for bringing that up, Cage. Cage, let me ask you real quick, and someone asked the question to add to that, but first I want to, what is the job of an auction house and a Golden?
So Ken's kind of doing it differently, right? So the job of an auction house is to provide a platform for your item to be sold. They should be doing some publicity of your item. They should be doing a good job of displaying your item, and they should be providing a bigger audience for your item than you otherwise would get yourself. It's kind of like, look, I'm going to lump Probstein and PWCC into the same category, right? I mean, we're friends. A friend of Luca Nation, the Wharf, right? I love him. He's got great customer service. He does a great job as a consignor. But right now, as he's building his business up, he will not be able to get the same eyeballs on his items as someone like a Probstein or a PWCC would. Their job is to get more eyeballs on your item, because some of the items we're talking about, it really just takes one person to see it, watch it, and be a bidder on it to get a significant more money on that item. And Golden, because he's drawn in these record prices, because he's gone on TV, because he's done that publicity, he is getting even higher prices because he's getting more eyeballs to it. People are watching Golden auctions. They've become like theater, right? We have contemporaries who do like a live show to go over their results, right? And so it's become, you don't do that for anybody else's auction. Some auction houses go against the Golden time period. I think that's one of the dumbest things they could do. And I try to use that as a way to try to buy some steals. People are ending auction the same day and time as Golden. They're not going to get the eyeballs. So the job of the auction house is to do a better job than you would do. Because remember, you're paying them a premium. They're adding 20% to that hammer price. The buyer is paying what it hammers for plus 20%. You're only getting the hammer price as the seller. So the auction house has to earn that 20% premium on that card. And what they do to earn that is package up the card, put it in an auction, run the auction, do the tech, which, by the way, Golden, I think they've now finally had an auction or two where they didn't crash. But yeah, they run that. They do the bidding. They protect the bidding of it. They make sure that that there's no shilling and that the protection of the auction better than maybe an eBay would.
Verified buyers is a big one that the buyer will actually play.
Yep,
Will
exactly.
actually pay.
And they package your item with other items of like and kind, and bring publicity to it. Your auction might be in one where a Honus Wagner is being sold, or a LeBron Exquisite is being sold, or some other great mantle, whatever it is. Go ahead.
I personally don't feel that a consignor should provide promotion. I think what we've seen is that the market wants a golden to promote their item, but I think that's a cherry on top. That's not traditionally what a consignor needs to do.
Well, I get it, but I think that's what he holds himself out as someone. He's going to do that for people. I think that's why people work.
Probstein doesn't. Probstein doesn't promote.
Nope.
And Probstein doesn't even take higher rates than
they send
selling on eBay.
Right? They send an email
fine.
out.
But they're not promoting. Probstein's not like doing like face to camera, like, oh my God, you're gonna see all these record prices. Like we have these, look at all these unveilings of these cards we get.
No, but they've been doing it long enough, right? Where like people put in their search terms on eBay, PWCC or Probstein, and look at what the auctions are, and like just search by that. So there's not a lot of people doing that for my cards, on eBay. No one's putting in Cage. What are you selling today? But they are doing it for those big consigners.
Real quick, and guys, Cage's Yankees. Man, they can't beat the Rays at all. I read a funny comment today. The Yankees have names, the Rays have ball players. But CD Cards asks, and Rosarena, man, he's mashing.
He's great. And he's playing really good defense too. By the way, it gets lost. He really can cover a lot of ground out there.
I just got a 52 Yankees team signed ball and a Mantle signed ball authenticated from JSA yesterday. Golden worthy. My first. I wouldn't sell that, but Cage. That would be golden worthy, right?
Like those balls. Definitely golden worthy, especially as you got Mantle balls and stuff. It's funny, Mantle. He was alive during the autograph period, right? So there are a lot of autographs of Mantle out there. So Mantle played in the 50s. He died, I think, in the 90s, right? So people were already starting to autograph things. There were already sports card shows. Mantle signed a lot of stuff. Mantle's autograph for one of the greats is surprisingly accessible. It's not a 5-figure autograph and a single signed, autograph ball. There's a lot of Mantle autographs. He definitely signed a lot of stuff. So it's, it's a great piece. It's something to have. That 52 ball would be pretty cool because that's got to be an early Mantle signature on there because he came up in 51, right? The 51 Bowman or 50. So it's
Yanks raised 4-4. Actually, here we go. 4-4. Guy on second. And extra innings. I love that new rule.
Yeah, the extra innings they'll lose. There'll be another one. So they'll start off all 3 series. They will have a game in each of their opening 3 series with extra innings, and they'll lose all of them
because they can't bunt, sack, fly.
If they're lucky. If LeMahieu gets to come up during one of those extra innings, they might win because he can actually put the ball in play. Although he ended one of the games the other day, it was I think it was a double play. He put one in the field, and someone got, I think Urshela got thrown at home.
Yeah. Hicks and Stanton just disgraced. Their bases loaded, no outs, couldn't even move the run. But anyway,
I've said this before a million times.
Yeah, it just makes me feel good to kind of make fun of your Yankees. Ryan Bitter asks, this is a really good question. As PSA works through the backlog and pop reports are updated, what cards will leave you most surprised in terms of high pop reports? And what cards would you sell before that update? And what Ryan's asking is, as they work through the backlog, different pop report, it's going to affect different pop reports differently, and he's curious Cage's take.
Okay, so if I were a holder of anything that was hot, surprisingly hot, in the last 6 months, I'd be getting rid of it now. And people are going to be really mad about this, but wrestling cards, tennis cards are top 2 to my list, and golf cards will be number 3. So if you're
the Net Pro tennis cards,
if you got those Net Pros, if you're somebody who went crazy with Serena Williams and Roger Federer and all those guys, if you're somebody who submitted those Tiger Woods, you got Tiger Woods upper deck cards, which by the way, there's 3 billion of those out there. You got wrestling cards, those 82 All-Stars, you name it, the whole deal. And I'm going to put a caveat at the end of this answer. So if you got those wrestling cards, if you were submitting wrestling cards, if you're sitting there with these guys, whether it's a rock tuna fish card or anything, right? Those cards, those are the ones that nobody graded, right? And then all of a sudden they exploded, and everybody found them, and everybody graded them, right? So there's a ton of all of those three kind of what I call like fringe cards out there. People are buying them now. If I had those, I would get rid of them faster than they'd be gone today. Now, my caveat.
Faster than you drink your 2-liter soda in the morning.
That's it. It's my morning coffee. We'll get through it. But I would get rid of those. Now, the only caveat I have on it is some of the cards, right? Some of them. Like if you are sitting on the 82 Wrestling All-Stars, I might not I have to flip those. Although the overall pop on those is going to go up, right? But the pop of the high-end stuff is probably not. The Net Pros, sure, they're going to go up. There are things that PSA is aware of, like those 82 Wrestling All-Stars, because the Hogans were selling for record prices in auctions. The Andres are selling at record price in auction houses. The Net Pro Serenas and the Federers and stuff, they haven't made their way yet beyond eBay or private sales. They haven't sold in a golden auction with some crazy price where all of a sudden it's great and PSA has their, I'm going to just work through the PSA Wonka factory. There hasn't been that memo slid to the graders yet by the PSA brass. Grade the Net Pros harder. But I think it's hit on the 82 All-Stars. I think they want to have people chasing and sending in those cards, and they want to maintain the 6 Flair PSA 10s. This way they sell for high grades, and the Hogans don't ever pop with a 10. So I really do think that they want people to be cracking BGSs and send them in. All you have to do is, big friend of the show, our first guest on, David Peck. If you check out 1982 Wrestling All-Stars, David Peck's account, check him out on Twitter or on Instagram. He's gotten some cards back recently, and the PSA grades on them are just abysmal compared to what he was getting before. So I think something like that they're onto. But if you're Tiger Woods Upper Deck, get rid of that now. You got those tennis cards, get rid of them. Those cards, they're the ones that everybody was just sending stacks of those in. And you see it too. Go on Instagram. Everybody's getting their tennis cards back now, like stacks like this of Federer and Serena Net Pros. So
I don't think PSA necessarily grades cards differently, but I do believe that graders have a kind of cognitive bias when they understand that a grade that they give is associated with a record price of a card. There's this cognitive bias of just being a little bit more careful to give out a 10. If a 10 means, a new $100,000 card hits the market versus giving it a 9. So I think there's just that element of cognitive bias. That's how I see it.
Yeah, but I don't even think it has to be, just a $100,000 card. I mean, I think they're doing it with a lot of lower end stuff. They're just not grading these things higher. It's stuff that people were sending in like crazy, and I don't think they wanted people sending them in. I'm going to tell you, base cards. Tyler Hero cards are getting graded harder right now. I'm being dead serious because I think that's how I was seeing them.
So it's funny. Kyle Sports Card said when we posted this graphic, he didn't ask a question, but he said, I agree with Andrew how PSA is grading certain cards. A premium blue ice Zion and silver Ja that he thought was a 9 at best got a gem, and lower end Chronicles that he sent in a ton. He was like, these are gem worthy. A lot, they got 8s and 9s, and I remember coming into the hobby, 8s were out of the question. You would not get an 8 on a modern card. It was almost impossible.
Yep. Well, listen, this is going to be the change, right? So I'm curious about when PSA comes back, what they come back as, and whether or not they're going to come back with any type of a value, any type of a number. Because, you're talking about Chronicles and Hoops. Those may very well be ungradable cards. And you and I talked about this many, many episodes. So you don't get better than Zion last year, right? But you could buy Zion and Jaws Hoops PSA 10s for under $100. Right? And we were talking about buying Trey and Luka when Trey was hot. And I don't know what else you want from Trey, guys. He's scoring 40. He's doing what he's doing. And now his team is in the top 4 in the East after today's beat of the Hornets.
And they got Lou Will coming off the bench. And anytime Lou Will in the playoffs is dangerous.
So, but the point there is, are you going to be grading a Hoops Zion or a Hoops the best rookie ever again? Whether it's Hoops Premium or who cares? So that's going to be an interesting thing because, I mean, the more stories like that last question about, hey, I sent in the Chronicle and got a 9, the more you hear about that, the more that PSA is getting what I think they want, which is they don't want people sending those cards in. They don't want to waste their graders' time with that stuff. And listen, it's funny because I believe Beckett had a similar thing going on years ago where everybody was sending stuff to Beckett. I think that was what created the BCCG, the Beckett Card Collectors Grading, where basically every card was
Beckett
a 10.
Crap Grading Company?
Yeah,
Oh, no,
Beckett
that's
Crack,
BCB.
exactly. But I think that was, we talk about, hey, who are they to tell me I can't get my card in the slab? I just want my card in the slab. I don't care what the grade is. I think that if you're really going to say that and you really believe that, then that Beckett Collectors Club was like maybe PSA. Maybe they come out with kind of like a value slab type thing where it's just 1 to 10. There's no nothing, and it's like real.
I don't
fair.
believe that statement, Cage, that people just want their cards in the
Well,
slab.
that's my point.
I think they just want cards in a slab that sells more.
Well,
a card saver and a top loader or a mag is a slab.
That's what I'm telling you, right? I mean,
that you don't have to wait 10 months for.
If PSA comes up with let's call it PSA Collectors Club, a different slab, and people can put it in there and they can pay $10 for a slab, but their top graders aren't getting it. Like that. That's where they're going to have their training graders. It's sort of like you can get a haircut at a place that teaches people how to get their haircut.
Is that where I got mine yesterday with the man bun?
No, I was going to make fun of my mom. I was going to make fun of my mother. Like her school had a place where you could learn to cut hair. Like they would teach people how to cut hair, and she would come out of there and we'd call her Axl Rose. Like, you look like Axl Rose, Ma. But it was fair. The price was right.
Do you realize we had a famous guest on yesterday, Blake Jameson, and the way you started the introduction to the episode was asking your co-host if he had a man bun?
Yeah, well, we didn't publish that one yet, so people don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, true. You see, that's a little weird. You'll see, guys, tomorrow. So the Blake Jameson episode is going to go live tomorrow, 7 p.m. Cage does a hell of a job with his intro. Here's a good one. From Rare Value. Rare Value asks, will Panini Dunk App and other digital cards become increasingly more valuable?
Mount Rushmore hopes so. That's an interesting way to answer that one. So there's pretty low risk and potentially high reward in those apps. You're talking about like the Panini Blitz, Panini Dunk, Topps Bunt, and the like right now. I saw at the end of March, Upper Deck file for a patent for an NFT blockchain as well. So I don't know whether that means they're going to come out with an app or they're going to come out with their own sort of Top Shot thing. It would be silly for these guys not to do it. Top Shot was a new thing, a new phenomenon that was, kind of created out of its own, thing. Bunt's been around for a long time, about a decade.
Is it Panini or is that MLB?
Panini. No, Topps Bunt. Topps is Bunt. Panini is their.
Is Dunk.
Panini has the Blitz for football and the Dunk app for basketball. But the Bunt for Topps, there are Mike Trout rookies on there. So you're talking about 10 years basically of those digital cards. What people are hoping for, and this is the gamble, right? This is the risk, that they are going to layer blockchain onto those already existing digital platforms, that they'll layer serial number via the blockchain onto Dunk, Blitz, Bunt, you name it. It's very possible that Dunk, Blitz, Bunt, they stay their own little app with digital cards, and that Topps and Panini come up with a new Top Shot like completely different platform. It really depends which way they want to go and how their advisors tell them what the cost of layering in blockchain on something that already exists. If they layer it in, somebody like Mount Rushmore, who we had on, is going to do very well because he's buying a whole bunch of one-of-one and high-end Mahomes digital cards for not that much. That will, I would assume, have more value if they're become part of like an NFT or they become tokenized. Go ahead.
I'm going to go a different direction. Not just so. I haven't played around with these apps, so I can't speak about the actual application. But from my perspective, everything Panini does is half-assed. So I can't see it being successful because they can't even figure out how to get redemptions back in people's hands.
Well, that's true, right? But
they can't figure out how to use a different Kevin Durant photo.
But this would have no friction, right? You wouldn't have to do that. But here's why
But it would still require some care for the consumer. It would require listening to the consumer. It would require some kind of artistic or creative approach to it. Like if you look at Top Shot, again, you could say what you want about Top Shot, but it's so clean. It's so intricate. The designs of those packs. It's a really cool user interface.
Right? So, and I'm curious about this. If Top Shot announced tomorrow that they were going to sell on the marketplace tangible versions of each one of those moments. Right? So
Okay.
so the LaMelo rookie assist, first
Don't do
assist,
it. You're,
that they would have a picture, a card, like a tangible card, or whatever one, the Kevin Durant, you name it, and that they would sell tangible versions of
LaMelo
the same thing.
handing the
Just a
ball
card,
off to
right?
Gordon
They're
Hayward.
making a cardboard
There you
of
go.
that moment, right? What would that do to the moment? You know, would people rather have the cardboard thing, or so? What Top Shot has going for it is it's just a digital thing. There is no cardboard version of it. Whereas the Panini Dunk app and Bunt and these things, they are digital copies of already existing tangible assets. So it makes it a little bit of a tougher sell because what I would say is just go get the card.
But Cage,
Yeah.
the question is the answer there. What I mean by that is Panini has a huge audience to go and ask that. They have a huge fan base of people that they could go and do a case study with, that they could do an experiment with to see what the true answer of that is. Maybe the cool part is the moment right before or the moment right after, right? I don't know. But Panini has this customer base, and it doesn't seem like they care or listen to their customers at all.
Yep. Well, ultimately, they'll decide on whichever method makes the most money for them. So if they can monetize the existing
Short term or long
platforms-
term, there was a question about that.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I think rare value, to answer your question, do I think they will? The answer is yes, because I think people are going to jump on them short term at the very least, in the chance that it becomes the Panini Dunk, app becomes like Panini's version of Top Shot, what they use to compete. So I think that you will see a short term bump up just in people speculating that that's going to happen. If they're right, you can see a longevity, an actual real bump.
Mm-hmm.
If they're wrong, then that temporary bump is probably going to fall off.
Paul says in the comments, the Panini app functionality isn't that good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've opened packs on Top Shot, and I beat this like a dead horse, so I might stop saying it. But like, how cool was that experience?
It was.
You click
That
on
was
the
what drew me
pack.
to it.
There's something to that, right, Cage? Like, I know we can't quantify it, but like, wow, this is so cool, and the music's playing in the background. You get 3 moments. You open the moment. It's a really clean user interface. So. CD_cards asks, how do you think the Ready or Not, the 1996 draft class documentary on NBA TV affects the card market for that class? Obviously, Kobe is in that class, but his prices are what they are. We're talking about guys like Marbury, Iverson, Nash, etc.
I don't think the documentary does much for it anyway. I think everybody's gotten documentary crazy. That class has already seen a huge bump. Iverson cards are really high. Marbury cards are even high. Kobe cards are, crazy. Nash's cards, when he was named the coach, they saw a bump. So I don't think the documentary really is gonna impact it at all. I mean, maybe it keeps those cards in folks' eye. The thing that I'd worry about, forget about documentaries and all that other stuff. The thing that I'd worry about is this: the argument for vintage was always this. It was always, if someone's paying X for this guy, right? If someone's paying $250 for a Cam Reddish, well, then Ray Allen is criminally undervalued. He's wildly undervalued because Ray Allen did X, Y, and Z, and Cam Reddish has done nothing, right? If someone's paying this much for Tyler Hero can only hope to one day do what Stephon Marbury did in this league. And yet Marbury is this, and Tyler Hero is this. And that
From
was
here on out, please refer to him as Starberry.
Starberry. That was a cool insert card that I had once. It was like a jam. It had like grapes on it. It was like a jam card. I have to find it. I'm doing the audience a disservice. It was a really cool, like purple Marbury card. I'll have to find it. The 90s inserts, man, they hit different. But so the point here is the vintage card market went up, I believe, because of that. When modern was going up, people were like, come on, I'm really going to spend $1,000 on the Tyler Hero card? Let me just go back and buy the Steve Nash. Look what this guy did. Let me go back and buy that Ray Allen or that Chris Bosh or that Dwayne Wade or one of those guys, right? But now with modern kind of coming down, right, does that mean vintage follows it down the way that it kind of followed it up? Because part of the rationale that people were spending money on these vintage was, low pop, and these guys already did it, and they're a safer place to put your money, and they rode the wave up. Are they also going to ride the wave down? I don't know.
Can I give a quick take on that?
Sure,
I
please.
think guys like Chris Paul, who are still playing, it's kind of, I mean, Chris Paul's like a vintage wine. But guys like that who are still playing, who are adding to their accolades, but kind of feel like they're a little bit more vintage. Maybe we'll create this like 2000 to 2010 segment called like modern vintage. I think guys like that. I think Russell Westbrook, man, like these guys are still adding to their career totals. They're adding to their career success. Can Chris Paul and the Suns not make it to the finals this year? Would that be crazy? I think guys like that are an interesting look. Not because vintage, like you said, followed modern. But what about these guys that are kind of in between?
And Chris Paul's got a great acting career ahead of him. Anybody who's ever watched a State Farm commercial knows. I mean, he's going to be winning an award for that.
Cage,
Move
dude.
on.
Chris Paul has everywhere he's gone, he's brought wins. The win total goes up. Like
Regular
there's something
season
to be
wins.
said.
Yes, he's brought some regular season wins. He definitely has.
That's fair. All right,
I'm a much bigger fan of Cliff Paul, his brother with the glasses.
NBA.sector asks, do you think the buying period timelines have shifted? With football
Yes.
being at a floor sometimes I knew he's going to like this,
Yes.
November, December. Does that mean now is the time to buy basketball?
No, I'm buying football now, not basketball, because nobody cares about football right now. But you know what?
Give a historical background on timelines, how they used to work and how they work now.
Well, I mean, you don't even have to go back that far. You go back last year. You know, you were buying in the lead up to the season and then selling, right? Or you would sell during the season.
How much of a lead up?
A month or two, right? It wasn't crazy. People weren't looking at it, right? So right now, in a normal universe, people would still be crazy about baseball. People would be buying your Randy or Rosarena cards and saying, look, he's off to a hot start. And people would be looking at the rookies now. And people would be, gearing up for the basketball playoffs and be looking to buy now. But instead, people have already started selling their baseball cards. They were buying baseball in December and January to hold for the lead up towards spring training and then selling it in early March. Myself guilty as charged. No more Tatis, basically, in the old collection. It's a huge shift. And it continues to shift because everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's trying to buy in the off season, capitalize on the run up because, everyone's like, oh, well, no one's looking at this right now, right? Should I be buying basketball? So here. With football being at a floor sometime in November, December, does that mean now is the time to buy basketball? So this argument here is football season, during football season, in the run-up to the playoffs, there was a dip during football season. We've been talking about the basketball dip. I think it was like right after the All-Star break, right? So, we talked about that a bunch of times. It was either,
It's huge, by the way. Traditionally, that's happened year over year over year. The All-Star to playoff dip.
So the question, NBA sector, it's a good one, right? Because I would argue there are two times to buy, right? There's an in-season time to buy. And I think for basketball, you might have already missed it. Because people are buying now. We haven't seen a run-up yet, but there are people speculating now. You've seen some on the rookies who might be in playoff teams. You've seen Zion start to go up. I've seen it on Star Stock also. People are already starting to move that curve. I don't think you've completely missed it. So I think if you want to buy and try to take advantage of hitting somebody who might make the playoffs and then sell in May, playoffs start May 22nd. So you do have time to buy now and sell, especially if you're doing something frictionless like Star Stock, where you're not waiting to get it and shipping it and worrying about returns and that kind of stuff. I think you can definitely still buy basketball now and gamble on somebody. You want me to throw one out there for you? There might be a question on this, but I don't care. But somebody like Miles Bridges, who's basically coming out of nowhere, taking advantage of some playing time, starting for the Hornets. And I thought it would be Devontae Graham who would show up and show out like he did last year. But instead, it's Bridges who's averaging double digits. He's rebounding like crazy. And if you haven't watched, check Twitter now and just type Miles Bridges. The dunk he had today should be on a poster somewhere. And he seems to have one like that every game. But there will be people like that who you can buy low. And as the team heads towards the playoffs, and if they have a role in the playoffs, then that's somebody whose cards could potentially go up.
The issue.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go first.
I was going to say this question is more about in-season buying, and you're right. There is that in-season. I think the other portion is that off-season buying, and that has gotten earlier and earlier as time, because everybody's doing the same thing, right? So if everybody knows if football games are going to start in August preseason, people used to buy in June or May. You got to buy in March or April now, because everyone's going to be buying it in June football, because they're going to start to talk about it. So yeah, I mean, take advantage of when basketball playoffs are on, right? And everybody's talking about basketball. Maybe that's when baseball is quieting down. Maybe that's in-season baseball buying. When we're in the dog days of summer. Maybe it's time to buy some hockey. It might be too late to buy football. Go ahead.
This is an issue and an opportunity, and I think the reason why this type of period was created was because there is no day trading platform out there.
Yep.
StarStock wants to do that. Alt wants to do that. Other platforms want to do that. But if there was truly a day trading platform which had a ton of liquidity, a ton of users, and instant ownership transfer, I don't think you would see dips like this in the hobby. But when you would have to buy a card and it would take a week for you to get it, to process it, you would sell it. It's impossible, to day trade in the current environment. But it also creates an opportunity for a company to come around 1 year, 2 years down the road that actually created a lot of liquidity. Where, for example, with baseball, sure, the preseason buying opportunity for baseball is gone, but the day trading opportunity for baseball is abundant. There's just no place right now for people to go and actually do that.
Well, I mean, the scary part is, going back to questions, does Panini and Topps bunt blockchain apps, Dunk, you name it, do those replace the tangible cards for day trading? Because it will be a lot easier to day trade those assets if people are actually buying into them as a value. And I'd even go as far as you can day trade things that don't have long-term value. Prism Draft Basketball is a great example of that. People buy those, they day trade those rookies, until something else better comes along, and then they basically become worthless. So
That's me again. I got like 15 Anthony Edwards in my StarStock vault. They've gone from $8 to $1. No big deal. I just lost like 90% of my value.
We all have them. I'm going to talk to StarStock. I got a couple comments about that. I have some ideas about what they could do with some of those cards that are basically dead inventory and people's StarStock inventories. I have some ideas. I'll mention them to those guys.
Benevolent ideas, right? Like giving them to kids and
for charity. Exactly. Before they hit you with a storage fee for your cards, and give you an option of. Click this box and this can go into this month's, donation for charity kind of thing. Yeah, definitely.
I like that. And maybe you can write that off. Interesting. It's an interest that's got a lot of benefits. I love win-win-win scenarios like that. That's well done, Cage. That'd be cool to talk to them about. Drake's PC asks, shout out to Drake. I don't know if you guys went to his profile. It's right there. It's at Drake's_PC. He just got two beautiful, beautiful cards. He's got an orange refractor of the 2008 Kobe LeBron card, and he also has the refractor of that in a PSA 10. Cards get labeled investor or collector cards. While modern base, we can agree, are investor cards. What about like pre-2000 base, like UD Griffey, 80 Topps Magic Bird, 81 Montana? Those are base cards in theory.
So there's a difference between base then and base now, because base then, that was all you had. Right, so you talk about an 89, an 80, and 81 cards, right? What draws me to those cards, not specifically the Upper Deck Griffey, because there were a lot of options, but that is a cool card. Like, that's like hard. We talked about that a lot. But like the 81 Montana and the prior rookies, you had one rookie card, right? So those
Yanks 8-4.
Did someone hit a home run? So they got lucky, right? Or what happened?
Yo, Rohamed Odor, the guy that got jawed, jawed Batista. He plays for the Yanks. Yep. No, three singles, Cage.
Who? Who?
Ursula Sanchez Odor.
All right, Odor. I mean, that's part of the reason they bring somebody like that on. And Sanchez, the only thing I can tell you is that probably would have been a double for anybody else. There's no way it was an infield single.
Okay, sorry. Guys, by the way, what Cage is talking about, how there was no base, or there was nothing other than base cards in the 1980s, go back to and listen to I think it was the Basketball Card Guy.
Yep. Great episode.
Podcast where where Cage and John talk about how 1993 Finest was kind of the set that changed everything, because it had all these refractors and things like that. Before that, it was just cardboard base cards.
Yep. So, I mean, you're talking also base cards now. The base cards now, with the exception of the Up Deck Griffey, base cards now, they're produced like crazy, right? So you want to call them investor cards? Yeah, those are, I mean, I think Drake is being nice. They're flipper cards. You know what I mean? If you talk about long-term, investors in people, if you're going to invest in Zion long-term, you're going to want to get something better than a Prism base card, because that, while it's going to be a cool card and people like it and you name it, it's not scarce by any stretch of the imagination. And, while it will have peaks and valleys now so that you can use it as an investment vehicle to trade with, long-term, people are going to be looking for the National Treasures cards, his autograph cards, the numbered Prism cards. There's just so many other, collector alternatives and or, long-term investment vehicles. That's the difference. I mean, look, you didn't put in the 86 Fleer Jordan, but that's the same kind of thing. If Jordan was out now, you'd be looking for a card like that. His Fleer base wouldn't be such a crazy thing because there'd be Fleer, Skybox, there'd be Panini with 14 different releases, and which one do you actually want to hold, right? So
there was the Fleer base and then the Fleer numbered base of the exact same one.
Yeah, and there weren't even numbered cards then. So, that's the difference. I mean, think about it, right? So some of these cards you're talking about, like the 81 Montana and PSA 10, I think there's like 100 of them. There's no base cards now in PSA 10 that have populations anywhere near that. And Drake, I love the question, but what I'm going to tell you is cards can be both, right? And I think that cards that are both are what you should be striving for. So I think if you're a real collector, right, you want to collect that player and those cards, you will turn that card into an investment vehicle or an investor card. And, I use my favorite again, but let's use your 81 Montana, right? If that's a card that people want to collect, people want to have that in their collection, then it will become a good investment because people are not so quick to flip it when it goes up in value a little bit. It's gone from 27 to the highs in February where, 100. And you've seen it come down a little, 80, 70, you name it. But I don't see that card coming up for auction every month going forward. You see a couple of them, and then they're gonna disappear, and the people who bought them at 70 have now set a new floor, and then you see it go up. So I think what you're looking for are the things that are both. Kobe is a great example of that, right? It doesn't have to be a specific card, but people love collecting Kobe, right? He's somebody who people build their entire collection around. People just have Kobe collections, and because people collect those cards, they become better investment cards as well. I don't think, there might be people collecting Zion, but the collectors of Zion won't say to you the corner piece of their collection is a Prism base.
Just a perfect example. I want to add a little math to this. And by the way, we're going to have Spintron on this week on our episode. He has one of the best Kobe collections out there, so that's exciting. But let's use Patrick Bet-David. Patrick Bet-David just bought National Treasures out of 99 Zion, let's say for 150, right? For that card. I would actually argue that let's say Zion does pan out, like really pans out. The ceiling for that card is $1 million card, right? $800,000 really pans out. But the ceiling, let's say same thing happens. The ceiling for the Prism base is what, 1,500, 2,000? So right. Your upside with a collector card like that is 5, 6, 7x. Where with the Prism base, it's maybe 2, 3x.
Yep, which is still great. Right,
which is still great,
but it's not the same.
It's not this. So, but you also take on it feels like a lot more risk because you're buying into National Treasures for 150. Let's say Zion, it's not that he doesn't pan out, but he becomes a good player, becomes a Chris Bosh-like career. Now you sell that card for what? 50K, 45K? So your downside is a third. Where the Prism base is kind of going to be trending. I mean, even when Zion was playing poorly last August, that card went to 400, 450. Now it's 650. It doesn't. So it's. I would look at the math. There's some interesting numbers there if you really do some research.
I like it. My take on it would be this. I'm curious to see who wins the fractional share race, and maybe there'll be more of them than not. Because what I see happening is if I have $2,000 to invest in Zion, right? I used to be, well, I'm going to go out there and buy the best card I can for $2,000, whether it's, maybe save a little more up and buy a silver PSA 10, or maybe I buy three of his Prism base. Well, now I have another option, a third option, something that wasn't on the table before. And if a fractional share company comes out and offers a Zion National Treasure autograph out of 99, maybe I put $2,000 worth of shares in that card.
Right.
And my 2,000 has a shot to go 6x instead of 2 or 3x. And I can still get it.
I actually think it's interesting because fractional share companies could also win on the day trading side too, on the secondary market.
Yep.
So that is, out of all the companies that I'm most excited about, you hit it right there. Fractional share companies they can do it really, really, really well. GTSM.High. This is perfect. I wanted to keep this to an hour. It's Saturday. WrestleMania's tonight. So this might be the last.
It's Sunday. It's the second day of WrestleMania, which, by the way, guys, enjoy. Sasha Banks had a great night yesterday. Hogan came out and got booed, which is just fantastic. So, and some really good events for tonight. It's amazing that WrestleMania is now a 2-day event. But yeah, go for it.
GTSM.High asks, all these different hedge funds have been created. Do you think they're still buying cards for their fund? Seems like a great time to wipe out stock of goats at these prices.
Seems like a great time to wipe out stock of goats at these prices, meaning the fund can come in and grab them now. So I do believe that.
If a fund wanted to buy, one Jordan 2 months ago, now they can buy 2 for the same amount.
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of.
So
you know what I'm saying.
Darren Herman episode, right? What was that Darren Herman episode? Maybe 40 episodes ago. Great episode, right?
I'll find the answer while you're talking.
So take a listen to that one. It's great. It's very different than all the other episodes we have because he talked about the institutional money coming in and that basically that's seeking alpha. And talking about how that it is a long-term investment by those guys. They're coming in seeking that alpha for, I think he gave kind of like a 5 to 7 year period of time. But you're right, GTSM, they still have the money. They're still looking for bargains. There's more money coming in. And this may be a year where any bargains like that are scooped up.
Episode 214.
214. So take a listen on that one. He's got some great insight into it. I don't think that fund money is going away. And I think that, that institutional investment should make you feel more comfortable about your investment in these cards for 2 reasons. Number one, if the fund didn't get in and they were looking to add a Jordan or a high-end GOAT, you're exactly right. These are the prices for them to wipe out stock. Second, if they are in and they bought, what a lot of companies do is dollar cost average, right? So, if they happen to be a holder who bought a Jordan PSA 10 at 600, well, wouldn't it be smart for them to add another one at 400 and now be in 2 at 5? If they're bringing their basis down on the investment. They're investing in the GOAT. I'm just using that one just because it's easy to use because we've all seen the highs on the pricing. The same thing.
No, it just reminds me of this meme I saw on the internet once when I was it was like this guy looking at this girl really, really funny. And he's like, I'm a bad man. I add to my losers. So like when the stock's just going down, there's double down cost averaging all the way down.
Yeah, but with the GOATs, right? So I mean, like
the GOATs,
if they happen to be a fund that bought into LeBron at 35, don't you buy another one now at 20, and then you're in 2 of them at 55, and your cost basis is now 27.5 on LeBron.
And 2 more when it hits 10K.
Well, if it hits 10K and they want to invest in it and they think it's going to turn around, then yeah, buy 2 more when it hits 10K.
Then 10 more when it hits 5K.
If LeBron Chrome,
it's just a joke. It's just 5K.
Joke. I'll be buying them, and you know how I feel about LeBron.
You will only buy LeBron Topps Chrome if you could get it for the price you sold it 16 years ago for $1,000.
Right, which is $2,500. I bought for $1,000 and sold for $2,500. So yeah, it's got to definitely go down a little bit for me to buy it. And you're 100% right. But yeah, right. GTSM, I think it is. I think you will see some of the, if it comes down, you're going to start to see these guys come in and set a floor for it 100%.
All right, last question. I'm going to see Also, guys, we might be able to take a few in the comments real quick. We'll do like a little.
Before we jump into the last question, anybody who's on here or listening to this episode later or watching it, if you haven't already done so, we added an Instagram page, Luca Nation Network. Go ahead and follow us over there, especially if you're part of Luca Nation here. If you're a listener to the podcast, we got some different content on there. That's going to be the hub, the home page on Instagram for all of our content, not just the podcast.
All right. Do you want a question from the comments, or do you want a question that I prepared?
Give me both.
All right. Sari asks, if we want or expect the hobby to continue growing, don't we need these common cards too?
Sari's right. And Sari, happy belated birthday. I gifted Sari a Zoom call with me for his birthday because he asked. So it was one of those cool things. You never know what's going to happen until you ask, right? What's going to happen?
He does some really, really good infographics on his page too. So shout out to that.
So I'm sorry, we might be reaching out to you for some help on our infographics. Why the heck not? Can't hurt to ask. So yes, I do. I believe we need the comic cards, and I am worried about that, right? Because I don't want to get too doom and gloom until I see what PSA does when they come back, or I see what kind of response we have to other grading companies. So if PSA is going to be that, $100 grading fee minimum or more, then I do believe somebody else is going to come in and fill that void. And, we just had CSG on last week. We talked about HGA. I do believe that people are still going to want to open wax and grade and try to defray the cost of that wax by grading those cards and selling them. It's just a matter of whether or not people are going to be buying them. Nobody seems to want to be the raw person, right? So, we have all these platforms and everybody wants to be graded. We have all these auction houses and everybody wants to sell the high-end stuff. We have all this stuff, but you're 100% right. There is that level of people below that, that kind of props up all the levels above it. I guess my hope is that PSA still wants to grade those cards, those Topps flagship, those Prism basketball rookies, the football rookies. Great example, like last year at Prism. You open up a Prism box, you get a Chase Claypool. It's a good card. It's a fine card. Or if you open 2020 Bowman baseball and you got Jason Dominguez paper. I sold one this week for $120, PSA 10. But that's not a card that you're sending into PSA right now. But it was one that you're sending in if it cost you $10 or $12 to grade, right?
I always thought BGS, no subgrades, was an interesting move, but it never caught on. But I was like, first off, I never understood the love for subgrades in general. I was like, this is kind of cool. Okay, you don't know exactly this, like what the card is, but it's a quick grade, it's cheap, and you get it back quickly. I thought it was an interesting play.
Listen, the tough part is for companies, and CSG will be listening to this, Becky will listen to this. I think if you have subgrades, then your product without the subgrades is viewed by the hobby as the inferior product that you have. PSA never had subgrades, right? And I think that's part of the thing, right? It's just here's our grade, it's our grade. If they offered one with subgrades, the ones without the subgrades are going to be viewed as the collector's club. So I think it's great that you can charge more, I think, for those subgrades and have that value level deal. But, people look at it and they say, okay, well, it's one without subgrades. That's probably why it never caught on. But maybe without subgrades, Beckett, CSG, whoever it is, sorry, I think you're 100% right. Somebody has to come in because you don't want to lose that level of the hobby because that level is bolstering it all. And there's more to it than that. We got a lot of hobby snobs who don't care about this, but there are group subbers that sub 80% of the cards they do are those base cards, the flagship Topps, Joe Adele, the rookies from football and basketball that are not the top 3 picks. You go back last year, the Cam Reddishes, the Brandon Clarks, the Darius Garlands, the stuff that you can sell and make money on, but you can't if no one's grading them for you.
What did anyone ever see in Darius Garland, by the way?
Well, he's good. The Breakers. He's small, but he's good.
An undersized shooting guard.
Dude, he's actually had a couple good games in the last 10. Take a look at his numbers. But
they just got blown out by Toronto without most of their stars.
One game. But so to put a final point on Sari's question, I do believe somebody's got to come in and do that. If not, I wouldn't want to be a breaker. I wouldn't want to be a person whose money is relying on my greased palm at Target or Walmart giving me blasters that I'm breaking for $80 or $100 because people are not going to buy them. because the reason why you were able to get the prices you were getting for those was, yes, the gamble to get a Joe Burrow or a Tua. But if you didn't, and you happen to be stuck with like I said, the Steelers, right? Or, Detroit, you got their running back Swift, or, you got somebody else, Gibson from the Redskins, somebody who was that level, that tier below, right? You could still grade it and still recoup some of your money, which right now you can't.
This is good. We went a whole episode talking about Top Shot. Nice profile pic, Delonde. He said, "I wish Top Shot did a nice little drop right now without anyone knowing, and everyone could start getting all their money out now. That would be a nice surprise." Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, they need to shake it up. They definitely do. They need to do something, because right now it's been kind of like a slow drip world. In their office hours, they said sometime this month they're going to be dropping, what they call, what is it, the Legendary Pack. There's going to be another Hollow Pack that comes out.
$1,000?
They gave a ballpark and said about 1,000, which is where it was last time. But there's going to be some requirements for it, and you name it. It'd be nice if they did a bass drop. Bass drop. It's like Funk Master Flex. But it'd be nice if they did that just without telling anybody. You're 100% right. They do, and they need to spark some interest. But the problem with these bass drops is everybody who was holding moments, when those base things drop, right now the ratio of collector to flipper on Top Shot is like 99.8 to 0.02. Yep. And when those packs drop, if people are able to get LaMelo or LeBron, they're not holding it. They're not keeping it. They're putting it on the market. And every time packs drop, so like the LeBron 35K, I'm buying it, guys. I'll tell you now. And, you can't hide because you can go look up what I'm buying. Yeah. I'm buying
Cage's dollar cost averaging all the way down from 110.
I am, exactly. So I've been buying those since 110, but they were.
What can hold out longer? Cage's dapper balance or the bleed?
It's true. It's very true.
It's a race.
And there's more of those out there.
It's a Zed horse race between
those
you two.
LeBrons were in that 350,000 pack mass drop where they dropped 1 million moments into the marketplace, and you see them go down. It goes down from 150 to 110, 110 to 80. Now it's in the 60s. People are getting those packs, and when they get them, they're selling them. They're flipping them, and no one's holding them. And if everybody's just coming in looking to take that $9 pack and turn it into $40, $50, that's not a recipe for long-term, sustainability. They'll have to hit some equilibrium there. They did it once last month. They did it when they LE'd everything that was 15,000. It just took everybody by surprise, and nobody was expecting that. And people who had just gotten in got a huge windfall because they weren't producing any more of those. Right now, everyone's expecting those 35,000s to go to 50 or 100 because that's kind of what they said. I think if they came out with a little surprise announcement, in addition to your surprise drop, they came out with a little surprise announcement that said, "Okay, here's the 50 guys from 35,000. Your Zion, your Wiseman, your doesn't have to be LaMelo because he literally just came out, but like Wiseman, Halliburton, a couple of the names of 35,000 that they're LEing them. I think you'll see a bump in the price, and it'll kind of spur the marketplace. People who are holding these things will be rewarded. Collectors will be rewarded instead of just the pack flippers."
I'm a big fan, and this is what I've learned in life. Like, the better the questions you ask yourself, the better the answers. I think they need to just start with a question and stay here. How do we incentivize more collectors to be on our platform? If they find an answer for that, I think it will have this trickle-down effect. This is funny from Paul. This is a comment. Will Cage get the golden money first or his dapper balance withdrawal first?
Paul, it's a great question, man. I think
this is the best one there is.
Number 3, I might get that bit clout. I might get that Cage coin money first, which, by the way, there is no way to cash out yet, but someone will come up with that. Paul is a holder of Cage coin. So if you're not on a Cage coin yet, be like Paul. Get in on a Cage coin. Invest on the ground floor on BitCloud. So what do I think I'm going to get first?
Hilarious.
And that is a great question. I better get the dapper withdrawal first, by the way. I better get my first dapper withdrawal first. I think, I've escalated this to the highest levels. And if you follow me on Twitter, I'm just going after Roham pretty much daily, I'm posting anybody who's having withdrawal issues. I post, I retweet, you name it, the whole deal.
Yeah. Money launderers, all these guys. I'm retweeting them all. I don't even know. No filter system.
Well, listen,
you're all on my team.
Yes, one of them I retweeted, and they're like, "Don't retweet him. That's not a good guy. He's got some issues." I'm like, "Okay, I won't. Not anymore."
Noted.
So, Paul, I think it's going to be dapper, but I will keep you all posted on that. I promise.
This is good stuff. CD cards. I don't really understand the question, but he said, "What's the first show Cage and Andrew will make the long-awaited guest appearance?"
So he's saying, where are we going to go in person, like to a card show, not like a show one of our episodes. Like, is it
I'm
going to be
kind
the
of
King of
feeling
Prussia one?
Miami. I'm kind of feeling Miami right now.
King of Prussia, man, right in your backyard.
When is that one?
I think like June, maybe.
Yeah, but my backyard right now is palm trees in Tulum.
Well, you tell me when they have a show in Cancun, and I'll be there.
I will. No, you won't. Don't lie to them.
I'm pretty confident they're not going to have one anytime soon.
That's true. Last question. This is about your favorite 2012 Prism. So Topps was still producing 2012 NFL cards in 2012. This 2012 Prism NFL specifically, like I think Drake picked up a Peyton Manning Prism Silver PSA 10 from 2012. So he's asking, does 2012 Prism NFL hobby significance get watered down because Topps was still producing football cards, or do you think it's just as historically significant as 2012 NBA?
It's not. So
It's not.
So think of 2012, a hierarchy, right? Basketball is always going to be the highest because it was the first Prism, and it's the only one really for basketball that year. There's no competing, Topps product. Topps was gone from the market, so 2012 Prism, it's the first Prism, and it's the only basketball. So if you're looking at rookies, the top rookies from that year, like your Kawhi, your Lillard, your Anthony Davis, that's the guy. That's the card. It's got a complete grade. Plus, there was nothing the year before. So some of those guys, they have 2011 cards. Like Kawhi and Klay Thompson have 2011 cards in their college uniforms. This is like an SP authentic Kawhi. But 2012 became their rookie, almost like the 86 Fleer basketball set, where everybody knows Jordan and Ewing did not come out the same year, right? They came out, in different years. Olajuwon came out the year before, so it was like 82, 83, 84. There's Olajuwon and Jordan were one draft year. Ewing came out the draft the year after, but they're all rookie cards because there was just nothing else, right? Topps had left the marketplace, so that Fleer set became such a big deal because there was not anything leading up to it. Same as sort of for that 2012 Prism, right? There was not a lot going on in 11. There was definitely no upper deck for a while, no Topps for a while. So, that basketball is always going to be the top. Baseball is going to be the other end of the spectrum. Still cool, 2012 Prism baseball, because it's the first Prism. It's still a cool product. It looks just like the basketball, so it's going to have that trickle-down effect. It's got Mike Trout, rookie. It doesn't. 2011 Topps already had the updates, so it's always going to be the stepchild to that card. But it's cool. Right in the middle is going to be football, because you think about like big rookies from that year. You think about like Russell Wilson, right? But there is a Topps Chrome Russell Wilson, right? So when you're comparing which one you want to get yourself a silver, you want to get yourself a Topps Chrome refractor of Russell Wilson. Most people would say they'll stick with that Topps version from that year. It's still cool. It's that 2012 Prism is still gonna carry some weight, and that football set is a licensed product like the baseball is not. But yeah, basketball, football, then your baseball. You put hockey in there too. There's some cool hockey cards in 2012 Prism. People sleeping on too.
Baseball Authority Preston says we're filming the first show you guys go to. So guys, we'll wrap with this. What you see here, just in the last few weeks, we had Preston join our team. So Preston has had a ton of success. He runs a Baseball Authority page. And our goal here is twofold. Our goal here is to have fun and to bring you guys valuable content time and time again so that you can learn, you could enjoy the hobby more, so we can connect with the community. And what you see here, Cage and I, we jump on and we do an episode every day. But we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have amazing people surrounding us, if we didn't have the amazing support of our community. So just from the bottom of my heart, if you're listening to this, Preston, thank you for all you do to help us produce all the content. It's not easy doing this every day, and you show up day after day, and I appreciate it very, very much. Gavin, it's Gavin's birthday on Tuesday. Gavin goes to University of Florida. He helps us a ton with content and managing our pages. And Conrad's one of our talent creators. And we're really, really lucky, to meet all the people we do, to have the support of the community, and to have the support of you guys so that we can continue to build. Thank you.
The hell with all of you. No, I'm just kidding. We love you guys, especially looking at this. And listen, I'm getting some really cool messages of people who have had, success. Cage coins. There you go, Paul. He's got
Got
him.
some cage coins.
He's got 'em. So,
BigClout.com/cage lawyer.
yeah, you can type in Cage Lawyer, you'll find them.
Cage lawyer on BigClout.
On BigClout. But listen, keep the messages coming, guys. I mean, somebody was mentioning to me just about the Prism Draft. What would I do with them? Prism Draft in Star Stock, and that's going to lead me to talk to Star Stock. We got a message from what's Andy Bailey, I think was his name, who messaged about how he's made a lot of plays based on what Andrew and I have given plays, and he's going to go buy a little plot of land and a house based on the plays. It's life-changing stuff. We love that stuff. I love getting on here chatting and and coming up here with Andrew talking about the hobby because I love this anyway. But stuff like that just it puts it into hyperdrive. I'm hoping that somebody's watching this or listening to this and they're going to make some plays based off of it and also have some success in the coming year. So thank you guys. Keep those messages coming. Keep the questions coming.